Before the pod gets started, go ahead and leave us a rating on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever else you listen to the pod. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Yellow Squared podcast. We're back for another episode this week, and we're talking about two games this week, aren't we, James? Welcome to the pod.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yep, 2 games. Sunderland and Cardiff. 1 point.
Yeah, it has only been 1 point, but I think when we get into discussing both the games, I actually think that the point against Cardiff is a step in the right direction. I don't know about you, James, but I definitely think, from what I've heard, there was some improvement, which is what is needed
Mhm.
after Sunderland. I think just sort of I don't I don't even know how you can improve Sunderland. It was pretty much on the floor,
Yeah.
like as low as possible. Um, but yeah, so James,
Uh-huh.
we will start with Sunderland. 2-0 loss on the road. I think it's
Yeah.
important to mention before we do get into it. A huge well done and a huge thank you to all the Watford fans that did make the sort of 500-mile round trip on a Wednesday night.
Yeah,
That
that's some effort, that.
that
Fair
cannot
play.
have been a nice coach ride home either. But yeah, massive respect to you guys, and thank you for following the boys wherever they go. So, James, just
Mhm.
just talk me through it. Talk me through it.
Well, I mean, first of all, you're still on track for your predictions from last week of 4 points from these games if we go and beat Sheffield Wednesday. So you called it.
Yeah,
You also said we'd get beaten comfortably by Sunderland and we'd go and get a draw at Cardiff, which you're all over that as well.
yeah. Looks like my ball knowledge is on
So
point.
yeah, so very good from you. Um, I don't think there's too much to take out of the Sunderland game. It was really poor, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
I think they turned up looking like they weren't particularly in any form of belief that they'd go and get a result.
no,
I think for me the problem with the Sunderland game was we looked pretty good sort of in possession. Sorry, not good.
yeah.
We looked
Well,
comfortable
yeah,
when we're sort of passing the ball around, but there was absolutely no end product and no sort of incisiveness going forward. We had a couple of runs from Chakvetadze, I think, in the first half where he managed to break forward, but the final ball let us down big time. Um, and then as soon as Sunderland scored at the end of the first half, that was kind of curtains really, and it was just shambolic defending. I don't
yeah,
really know what anyone was doing. He was just allowed to run and run and run and run and run, and we got into the box, good finish. And by that point, it was just before half time.
yeah.
And I know everyone talks about it, but it was kind of one of those where I think we were just trying to get to half time and just sort of take some belief that we'd managed to sort of keep them at arm's length because we had, and you could hear Sunderland fans getting frustrated.
Yeah,
We were winning balls in the middle of the park and we were winning the balls high up the pitch. We were just not able to make that final pass work. Poor decision making all over the pitch really cost us. And 1-0 down at half time. And I think even the most optimistic Watford fan like myself, even I didn't really believe that we were going to into that at
no,
all.
no.
And then Sunderland scored at like the sort of the worst possible time in the second half, and it was horrible to watch. Really, it was kind of a ball into the box. We just got bullied at the near post, far post, whichever way it came. I can't remember now. But Lewis just got walked all over, and it was a pretty easy
Mm.
header to make it 2-0, and that was that really. And then I think what I found less palatable after that was just the anger and sort of petulance that started to creep in to the Watford team, which we spoke about at length last season, being disappointed with some of those things. And obviously that culminated in Ryan Andrews' his red card, which I don't
Yeah.
know. Personally, I think the referee was a bit card happy in that game because it was
Mm.
his first ever. It was his first championship match. All his previous matches had been in League Two, so pretty wild, pretty big step up as well. And yeah, I don't know, felt a bit bad for Andrews, but still red cards given. And to be fair, I think they said on commentary that they're going to struggle to get that one overturned via appeal, and it looks like that's been the case.
Yeah, it was just a
So
silly
frustration,
decision.
really. But yeah, I think for me, just overall, that was a really worrying performance that we just didn't even look like we turned up. But judging by what came out after the match from Ismail, keeping the players in the dressing room for 50 minutes after the game, just forcing them to talk about what went wrong and what they're going to do about it, it was a good sign for me. And I think
Mm.
that potentially bore out in the team selection that we saw yesterday and the performance that we saw yesterday. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's kind of my take on Sunderland. I don't want to labour it too much because I don't think there's too much good to pull out of it.
No, no, I don't think there is either. I think you've covered pretty much everything. Um, yeah. So we'll move on. We'll move on to Cardiff. Now, I was out yesterday. I did not
Mhm.
watch any of the game. I think that's a bit of a telling sign, really. I wasn't particularly too interested yesterday. Just following on from Sunderland, really. I don't know. I just feel like one of those performances really sucks the enjoyment, sucks the wind out of the following sales. For me, anyway.
Yeah.
But
No, no.
from what I've heard, and from the notes that were so well written down by our dad for me, I asked him to
Yeah, we've got
compile
the
some.
scout in this week, didn't we?
Yeah, I asked
We
him to.
deployed the chief scout. He's
Yeah,
gone and had a little look at it. So yeah.
yeah, I asked him to put together some notes for the game to see what he thought about it, and he supplied me with 8 pages of detailed notes. Broke it down into 10 minute segments. So, but yeah, it's sort of given me a bit of a picture of how the game went.
Hmm.
And from what I've heard, I think we should have potentially won that game
Yes.
fairly comfortably in the end. From by the final whistle, I think most people would agree that we should have won, and we looked no more likely to win
Yeah.
towards the end. So I think
Totally agree.
definite positives from what I'm reading here is that the defensive shape was much better. There looked to be a real step up in organisation and strict staying in formation and basically just blocking them out up until they scored, which was just all of the defenders rushing to the front post and leaving the back post wide open. Um, so that's a little bit poor, but I think that's another example of just a final error that is
Mm.
again cost us because ultimately that's not the system. That's not what you're trained to do. Everyone's just sort of rushed to the ball and left their men. So
It's just awareness, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, it's
It's just
just one of those things. I don't know whether that's lack of communication. Obviously, no Porteous, so Hoot and Siralta were the
Mhm.
partnership. Maybe just a lapse in communication there. But I think that is the most interesting thing to take out of this week. Changing from Porteous and Hoot to Siralta and Hoot. I think that kind of highlights what we said on the last pod. The complacency of in the knowledge that you'll start the
yeah.
game can't
Yeah.
you can't take it for granted. Um, there's got to be people knocking on the door, and ultimately Sir Alta, as he's been playing DM, but obviously we know he is a centre back at heart. So starting
Yeah, and
centre back, I don't.
yeah.
Did he look good? Did he look good?
Yeah, he looked pretty good to be fair. So I think I know, so I might be jumping in there slightly, but yeah, yeah,
That's fine.
he looked pretty good to me. He looked pretty strong in the air and pretty committed. And I think what helped him out is that because he'd been playing in sort of that defensive midfield role this season so far, his ball control was pretty good and his distribution was pretty good as well.
Yeah.
Which I think is what's hindered Porteous so far this season a little bit,
Yeah, yeah.
which is why I think Porteous is potentially easier to drop than Hoot is because of what Hoot offers sort of going forward and bringing the ball out. But yeah, no, I've said it before, but I think Sierralta for me is my sort of pleasant surprise this season, just in terms of his performances.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I think looking past the last 2 seasons, I thought he'd, for sure be leaving in the summer. I
Yeah,
think, he had that season where he first joined us in the championship in 2020-21. And, a lot of people were raving about him. He looked solid. He came in, did a job, got us promoted. Looked really shaky in the Premier League, and then didn't feature much last season, did he? So
yeah,
it's been a pleasant surprise that he's come in. Um, up until
yeah,
this point
absolutely.
with working hamstrings, and
Well, he did go off, didn't he?
yeah,
But it was a bit of a I mean, oh, so you didn't watch it, but yeah, he went off about 60 minutes. It was very strange. He kind of cleared the ball into touch and cleared the ball into touch, decided his hamstring had gone, and walked off the pitch. And Porteous was immediately ready to come on.
right,
It seemed very strange. It felt like it was a completely planned, premeditated change that at 60 minutes Siraz was going to come off for Porteous, and he just decided to kind of hide behind a slight hamstring injury, which seemed odd to me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, bit of a strange one.
yeah. Maybe. Well, I don't even know what possible reasoning is there for that, but
Yeah,
you know,
I don't know.
but yeah, a nice little change up, and we looked fairly resolute. From
Yeah,
from what
I agree.
from what I've heard. Um, so yeah, moving on into the second. Well, I think we can't move into the second half without talking about Bio's miss, can we?
Yeah. The crow.
It's just no left foot, is
Oh,
there? No left foot. He sort of tried to work his entire body around the ball, to shoot with his right foot when he's about 6 feet away from the goal.
yeah, because
Um,
he took his goal with his left foot and nearly
yeah,
balled that up as well, didn't he? But
I
he's a
don't know.
very strange one for me.
Yeah,
For me, he starts over Rajovic because he offers so much more than Rajovic. But yeah, his finishing is not there for me.
no,
Despite that, I still think he'll get between 10 and 15 goals this season,
yeah. I think the most frustrating
which
thing
I think is
is
a pretty decent return.
oh yeah, 100% is a decent return, but the most frustrating thing is I think he could already be on 10 if he could finish.
Yeah, I think so. He'd be,
So how many
yeah,
chances is he going to waste before he gets to that 15? He's already on
yeah,
4, 5 in all competitions. So you know it's not a bad goal return given that we've only had 10 games, but
yeah.
you know he can do more. I think I firmly believe that he'd be playing in the Premier League if he could finish because he does so much running. He's a really good athlete. He does so much running. His link-up play is really good in tight spaces. His finishing lets
It's
him
getting
down
better,
so
isn't it? Yeah,
much. His
yeah.
finishing, so often he'll be throwing goal and he drags it wide. Don't know whether that's a confidence thing, whether he's just snatching at chances, but
But I don't know whether or not I agree, mate, because I don't know whether or not the sort of the rest of the team is starting to believe in him a little bit more. Because I felt like at the start of the season he would make lots of runs in behind, or he'd come short, and the ball would never sort of be passed to him, and it would go away from him. But now they just seem like they are trying to use Bayer in that link up play.
oh
So
yeah, that's a positive then, isn't
um,
it?
yeah, he's playing for me anyway. I mean, people will disagree, but for me, he's playing his way into the starting. He's the first choice, sort of number 9 for me
Yeah,
at the moment,
yeah. I think
with his
more.
limitations,
Yeah.
obviously. But
Oh yeah. Oh
um,
yeah.
but if you've got Martins, and we'll come on to Tom Ince in a minute, but Martins and Ince either side of him, I still think that's threatening enough in the Championship.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think so. Especially in just the first season of rebuilding, for 100%. Yeah. And yeah, we'll get on to the topic of Rajovic in a few minutes. But yeah,
They
I think that Bio could cement himself as the first choice striker. if you'd looked at that when we signed Rajovic, we'd be a bit like, oh, well, that was a waste of money. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get onto that in a few minutes. So second half, you actually watched it, so I'll let you
I
give
did.
a little breakdown of
Well,
the second half for us.
well, let's see what did the chief scout say, and
Well, okay, so
let's see if I agree with his statements for the game or the second half.
by the end of the game, he has written down here that Watford were the more likely to win. Um, he did actually say that the substitutions weakened us throughout the second half,
Okay.
with
Uh.
Rajovic and Ince coming on. Um, he's both given a 3 out of 10. So I think it was more that
All right. Okay.
Rajovic didn't have a lot of impact, and Ince had a bit of a shocker.
Yeah, weird one for Ince because he did loads of running and he was winning ball high up the pitch, making some sort of good interceptions and doing and pressing well. But his final ball was what was letting him down yesterday, as it has been for the entire team this season. So I would, yeah, I mean, so I would agree with Dad's points there. Yes, should absolutely have won that. We should have won the game. We had the chances to at least win it, sort of 3-1. Um, so agree there. Agree that Rajovic added nothing when he came on. And yeah, Tom Ince, he should have scored the winner. He's gone for power. There was a little pressure from the Cardiff centre back, and he sort of leant back and he was falling as he hit it, but it was just asking for him to just open his body up and just sort of place it into the corner, and that would have been it 2-1, and I couldn't see Cardiff coming back into the game at all from there.
Yeah,
Cardiff looked weak in the second half.
yeah.
So yeah, would agree with that. Maybe not a 3 for Ince,
Well,
maybe a
I can
4 or 5, but
yeah.
um, that missed chance was pretty glaring.
Yeah, I can agree with what you're saying in terms of winning the ball up the pitch and doing a lot of running, but to be honest, he comes on the pitch to deliver in the final third, and if his final ball is rubbish and he's missed a big chance, he's not delivering on what he's in the team to do. And to
Yeah,
be honest, I do
agreed.
think if he's not done that at all, then it's difficult to give him more than a 3 or a 4. Um, Obviously
Fair
working
enough.
for the team is very important, and winning the ball out the pitch is good. But that's got to be the the the
But
necessity in this in this team. He has to do that. That's his job. Um, but then the
I
final bit on
suppose
top of
the
that
big,
is needed.
the, yeah, the big question for me is would Asprilla have finished that? And I'm not sure he would have done.
No, I don't think so either.
I think he'd have probably tried to overplay it, maybe take it around the keeper, something like that. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And the chance would have gone. Yeah, right person for me in the position to take the chance. Um, just bottled it.
Yeah, it's interesting about Asprilla. In the notes I've got here is it's written down that he had a bit of a poor game, um,
Yeah,
and I do worry for Asprilla. There was a lot of noise about him leaving the club in summer, that he wanted to leave the club in the summer and move to the Premier League. And we've had this discussion about how has he done enough to deserve that? No. Has he done enough now? No.
yeah. I think he's
I
playing
do
his
worry for
out of
him.
the move. Yeah,
I do worry that he's, yeah, like you say, he's actually playing himself out of a move to a Premier League club right now. He's not his end product. He plays
and
some
it's that
great
for
balls
me.
through, but
Yeah,
decision making, I think, is the thing that lets him down. He finds himself in some great positions for scoring goals, and he squanders them. And to be honest, he's only scored one goal for Watford, so he squanders it every time, as far as I'm
yeah.
concerned.
And his assist tally, I don't think is much higher either. Um,
No, however,
but
I think that
I
the assists is a little bit difficult for him, given that he does play some fantastic balls through,
yes, he does, mate. Yeah,
and
doesn't he?
people are not finishing 1-on-ones. Sorry if I
Yeah.
jumped in on you there.
No, no, yeah, mate. It's all good. Yeah, Spree's a weird one. I think he strikes me as the kind of guy that he's trying too hard. I think he just needs one to go in, or he needs to just have a run of good form.
Yeah.
And I think you'll potentially see a different player. But yeah, yeah,
No,
tough
no,
one.
no, I agree. Yeah, yeah. Maybe I think it's more now the run of good form more than anything because I think what we've seen before we always thought it would be just if he gets that one goal he'll be set. But I think now he needs a couple goals, few assists for the confidence to really start flowing. There's 100%
Yeah,
an unbelievable player in there, but it's just finding the best and getting the best out of him, which is a bit of a difficult one. I think.
mm,
And another example of a difficult situation for me is Louza. Um,
yep,
I've got in the notes here that he came on and he didn't really do a lot, and he's earned himself a 5 out of 10. And I feel quite bad for him, to be honest. I think he looks a bit lost at the moment. Um,
mm,
we all know on his day he could be one of the best players in the championship,
yeah, absolutely.
but he's gone missing in recent weeks. He's not the player that we have such high expectations for him. I don't know whether the weight of being number 10, the weight of it just seems like the pressure's really getting
Yeah,
to him, and he looks really
he's put a very
lost.
frustrated figure, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I think he gets frustrated, like you say, he gets frustrated quite easily on the pitch when things don't happen for him. But honestly, I feel quite bad for him. I think that he's just a little bit lost at the moment, and it's a difficult one, isn't it? I don't really know how you really turn that around. Um, any thoughts on that, James?
Well, yeah, he was another victim of the final ball curse. Yesterday, lots of passes going astray in promising positions, lots of missed opportunities um, from him. As we made countless sort of breaks running at the Cardiff defence and just constantly managed to fluff our lines really. And when he came on, he was equally victim of that problem. I think for me, if he wants to be the senior player in the team and the senior pro, uh, he's got to snap himself out of that problem. He should be the one trying to drive and sort of make the change because a bit like a Spreer, I think if we do manage at some point be to get on a good run of form, I think it's a different team. I think when Loser's confident and is happy with the way that the team is playing, and he can dictate games. But yeah, I worry a little bit about his attitude at the moment.
Yeah,
Lots of hand waving, and he's looks sort of cuts a frustrated figure on the pitch, which I don't really want him to be sulking. I want him to be, leading
yeah,
as one of the better players. So
for sure.
yeah, um, I don't know how much sympathy I have for him because he's a professional and should be and is an international. Um, But yeah, bit of a tough one. Bit of a tough one to understand that one.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think we'll move on. We'll move away from Cardiff, and I think we've got to discuss Rajovic now in a bit more detail. So obviously he's come in towards the end of the transfer window. A lot of expectation. £1 million player in the championship. That's no small fee by any means, and I don't think he does anywhere near enough. I don't
No.
I don't know about you, James. If you just want to,
Yeah, I mean, for a big guy, he's one of the least physical presences I've seen. Uh, he got bullied off the ball by Perry and G yesterday, um, who's not a big guy at all. Um, yeah, I don't know what it is. You almost want to just sort of, kick him into life and say, listen, mate, yeah, you're 6'5", just put your weight about a bit. Be a
yeah,
presence. Be difficult to pin down. Um, I think he can't maintain the tempo of the championship. He doesn't look like he can physically cope with it, which is a massive part of the problem. I think if the ball comes to him in the box, he will probably at least get the shot on target or score. But the game requires so much more than that. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not sold by him at the moment. Um,
no.
and yeah, I kind of worry for that transfer. I wouldn't be surprised if he disappears in the winter on loan somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think if you put the ball in the box for him, he's more likely to score than miss. But we are obviously not playing that kind of system. We do not put the ball in the box more than 3 times in a game, and
Yeah,
it's difficult for me to understand the transfer when a player is so unnatural in that system. He doesn't get about the pitch. His link up play is not. He doesn't do it. He doesn't drop in to get the ball. Doesn't. He's a massive guy. Just drop in, hold the defender off. Do your job, and
his touch seems to let him down as well.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's a difficult one. It is a difficult one because like I said, put the ball in the box. Birmingham's a great example of that. Good cross, and he somehow manages to get it in, as any good
Mm,
striker does.
yeah,
He somehow managed to put the ball in the net. He did it twice against Coventry. There's goals in there for sure, but he needs to do more. He needs to do more in the rest of the pitch. And like we said, that's why Bayer's getting picked over him right now. Bayer does a lot more running, does a lot more link up. Players can trust him with the ball um,
yeah,
more than
yeah, yeah,
Rajovic, and that's growing game by game. Like you said at the start of the season, people are less likely to trust Bayer with a touch, trust Bayer with a running behind. But Brajovic is not that striker. He's not as mobile. He won't be able to get onto a ball if it's
yeah.
pumped in behind. He really feeds off crosses into the box, and with Ince and Martins on either side, you're more likely to for them to cut in and have a shot rather than take it to the byline and swing across him for Rajovic. So for me, sorry, for me
Okay.
it's a it's a complicated one, and it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense why you would sign a striker that so obviously doesn't fit what you want from me. Anyway, I could be way out of line there, but
Well, I think he's the mold of striker that Ismail wanted. He's just not delivering on
no,
the sort of the requisites that Ismail demands. I don't think, and that's obviously a failing of the maybe of the scouting network, or more realistically, I suppose it just shows you the market that we're shopping in. Ismail obviously wants a high end number 9 who can do it all, and obviously that's going to come at a cost. Um,
and that's money that we don't have to spend right
that's
now.
money we don't have, yeah. So yeah, yeah, disappointing so far that transfer. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Um, any other topics you wanted to talk about, James, before we just head into the last little bit?
Just a shout out for Kayembe, I saw, and Livermore. So Kayembe and Livermore obviously came into the side. We've had our question marks surrounding Livermore in the past
Oh yeah, for sure.
from his performances, but I would just say to them, credit to them. I thought they played really well, or maybe not played really well. They fit the system well.
Yeah,
Um, Livermore did a pretty good job and showed why he can sort of play that role. So I would potentially expect him to start again actually against Sheffield Wednesday. And you know, I liked Kayembe in that more forward position, bit higher up the pitch,
yeah,
a bit more mobile. His control is actually pretty good, and you know, he was a willing runner.
yeah,
So I think it was mentioned. John Marks on commentary said, you know, on paper this might not have been the most technically gifted Watford side that we could put out, but it was the more it looks at the moment like the more willing side. So yeah, just shout out to those guys because I thought they actually did pretty well yesterday
Oh
in
yeah,
circumstances.
yeah. I think yeah, obviously Livermore has not got the legs, so playing in an anchor essentially, just sitting right in front of the defence. It's a safe pair of hands. He's experienced. He
Hmm.
knows what he's doing with the ball. He doesn't have the legs, which is always a concern. And people said that when he signed for us. West Brom fans are saying that he doesn't have the legs anymore. So I naturally assumed he would be a dressing room figure, but I think if he can come in and be that safe pair of hands, take care of the defence, just sort of marshal the midfield, keep them going. Interestingly, I think he will be used a lot more in away games than home games. Um, I think
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that could be used as somebody that a voice of calm, essentially. Um, it's a different atmosphere, difficult atmospheres to play in. When you look at Sunderland, etc. Um,
yeah,
when when it would be easy for midfield to go missing, um, a safe pair of hands in there to tidy up, just to lead them on the pitch rather than from the dressing room. Particularly away from home is what is needed, and in a home game where you'd expect to have the ball a bit more, tempo's a bit quicker, then you look at having someone else in that
yeah.
midfield.
Mm,
But
mm.
yeah, I think he will be utilised um, when necessary. I don't think he's a first on the name sheet. Um, he'll be starting every week, but he'll be utilised sensibly because of his age and obviously his legs. He's not going to be able to play every game.
Yeah, no, agreed.
So I think we'll just move on to the Watford women before we
Yeah,
end off the
yeah,
podcast. So another week and unfortunately another a loss for the Golden Girls. Two
yeah. That's
one
right.
loss to Sunderland away from home. So like the men's team, they could not beat the Black Cats.
No.
I think there's a little bit of question marks now. Um, you know, there's been quite a difficult start to uh,
Yeah,
to the
but they
season
have played
for
strong
them.
teams. They
I
have
think
played
yeah,
strong
I
teams.
think they have played strong
I'd
teams,
say.
but yeah, I think 2-1 slightly flatters the scoreline. They did score right at the end of the game. Um,
Yeah, true.
but today, Southampton at home, so hopefully they
Another
can
tough one.
hopefully they can pull something out. But hopefully a draw, maybe even a win. Um, but two losses in a row now. I think they just need to steady the ship with a solid point or a solid performance, just to carry on that confidence into into the next run of games. Like you said, they've had some tough games to start with, but it's the championship now, so every game's gonna be tough.
Yeah,
Every team's gonna be strong. So hopefully they can get a result today and kick on from there. Sort of kickstart the season really. But yeah, very informed striker at the moment Watford have. So
yeah. Carly Johns. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely, really in form, scoring a lot of goals. So hopefully she can carry the Golden Girls to a victory today, or
mm.
at worst a draw.
Yeah. Hope so.
So come on the Golden Girls, and
Yeah,
hopefully they
absolutely
can
right.
they can get a result for us today. So yes, thank you very much for listening to the Yellow Squared podcast. Of
Mm.
course, available early on audio. We are changing that up a little bit if you are new around here, and then we'll be available as usual on Wednesday if you are watching the podcast. So subscribe if you are new around here, and we'll see you again very very soon for another podcast. Thanks, guys.
See you later, everyone.